We have just completed the second decade of the 21st century. And in a very typical way, we try to characterize what the prevailing decade was or what it meant. We generally try to give it a certain prevalence. And for me, I think the second decade of the 21st century has been, we can conceive many things. A lot of people say it's been a decade of nationalism and nationalistic approaches. But for me, I think, and to use the word of Vivekananda, it's been a decade of integrative approaches. That is something very significant. And it's been reflected by our debate in the United Nations, in the General Assembly in 2012, Rio plus 20, in which we thought about how we should look ahead in this world. And then the debate that happened in the General Assembly from 2012 to 2015, when the Sustainable Development Goals in September was adopted and came into effect from 1st January 2016. I think the whole idea of looking at the world not only from a state approach, also connecting the state to the region to the provinces, and the provinces to the local, I think has become a remarkable way of looking at the world in an integrated fashion. And the multi-level approaches that has come about in this decade, vulnerabilities and the risks are much more than it was in the earlier century. We are far more familiar with the climate change impact. We're far more attuned to what science is telling us on climate change. Largely, we've been a little skeptical in our scientific understanding of climate change. We've always felt that climate change has always changed, so there's nothing significantly new in how things are being changed in the 21st century. But the knowledge that we are getting, the evidences that are coming forward, clearly suggest that we are living in a time where we'll have to face considerable risks from climate change impact. And there's a whole lot of debate that has come about. This has also moved us into a sphere of clear ambitions, clear goals and clear targets. And if I had to reflect a bit on the last decade, the second decade, I would say that the global community has been also very ambitious in its approach. So we've looked at the 1.5 degree, curtailing of carbon emission, which is an ambitious target. We've looked at something called zero poverty, which is absolutely very ambitious. We've looked at targets like zero emission, which is again very difficult to achieve, but we've kept these very remarkable, desirable goals in front of us. And that is the big significance of the Sustainable Development Goals. The difference between the Millennium Development Goals, which started off in the 21st century, and the Sustainable Development Goals is that we are setting a certain goal-determined approaches. The Sustainable Development first sets the goals and negotiates around it. In the Millennium Development Targets, we negotiated for the goals. So I think this is a clear shift now, and a clear shift in the understanding of how global community is looking towards issues at a more localized level. And this is, I think, in some sense, quite remarkable in the way we are now setting agenda and setting goals through targets and through indicators, which is the outcome of the Sustainable Development Goals. I think, and if I have to quickly, in one sense, round up my initial remark, and we can then pick up the discussion, is to say that while the Sustainable Development Goals have a bigger picture towards it, what are the specificity that would determine mountain sustainable goals? And the mountain sustainable goals are precisely the trickle-down effects of what the larger sustainable development framework is all about. I think we need to be more focused, more area specific, and we have to determine within the larger framework of the Sustainable Development Goals how we can activate, localize, initiate, innovate some of the ideas from the larger framework to a more ground level understanding of the issue. And I think mountains play a critical role. We know that very much. It covers almost one half of the land surface of the world. It covers almost 1/4 of the world population. And if you look at the Himalayan region, it is critically important to understand in a more integrated way how we look at the Himalayas in particular. The Himalayas is, for example, the givers of the rivers that flow, originate from the slopes, from the snow, from the ice, from the permafrost, and then flows down. So there is connectivity between the highlands and the lowlands itself. And when we say that Bangladesh is also part of the Himalayan construct, it is very much so, because its dependence on the rivers that come from the Himalayas is quite critical and crucial. So we have this very significant zone, very significant and an important region, which sometimes in the Arctic science we describe as the third pole. I know Mr. Rathore from IDSA would like to elaborate a bit on that, because after the two poles, maximum amount of snow, ice and the permafrost is in the Himalayan region. So I think we have definitely reconceptualized the way we look at the Himalayas now. As a vital natural resource, as a giver of livelihood, as a giver of economic returns, and therefore we have to look at this region in a far more holistic, integrated and interdependent ways. And I think that probably is the theme of Samwad, and we would like to bring in more of this bottom to top approach rather than just